Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the SMG Blacklist podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jack Wendrowski, number 23 on the list, and with me is
Melissa Maxey.
And we are here to talk about The Major, which is episode 15, season 2, and The Major is number 75 on the Blacklist. And the reason, I think Liz said it, the list is almost haphazard, and we need The Major right now only because we need Tom Keene.
Everybody needs Tom Keene.
I thought it was interesting.
Everybody wants Tom Keene.
So if The Major was this last-minute addition to the list, how can he be number 75 and the Deer Hunter is 93?
Well, Reddington's number 6. No, I'm just kidding.
Could he be number 6 on his own list? He probably could
Maybe.
be. Well, it almost seemed. I think that Liz brought up a good point in there. Is that, is there a real list? She doesn't think so. She thinks these are off the top of his head. But how do you account for the numbering system? And unless The Major was already on the list, I think The Major should have been really a higher number. But
the question is, what do the numbers mean?
Yeah, is it sequential? Is it maybe
I think it's based on importance of information that he needs to get out of them, because Tom is at the top of the list.
Right. Well, that makes more sense. It's not exactly like the FBI's top 10 most wanted.
No.
These are numbered in some way that maybe we'll actually find out. So the reason he wants Tom Keene is because they have introduced this judge into the picture that's going to have a hearing to whether or not Liz should be held for trial in a public court. And of course, the task force and Cooper are trying to fight this pretty hard. So he's asked the judge. They have a hearing with the investigating police officer, and of course he thinks he's got this big, government conspiracy, and he's really stopping this great public injustice.
Well, he actually does. I mean, all the information that he has is true and, to the point. And when he gets there to the trial with all of his information, they have it locked down. They take him aside, and they frisk him and take all of their pens and wallets, make sure they don't have anything in the courtroom. Even the judge, when they get inside, is like, "What's the deal? You made me move my court, and you locked the place down." And he was really kind of put off by the whole thing. So that in itself is going to be bad against Liz, because already out of the gate, he's thinking that there's something definitely up.
I thought this judge seems pretty self-righteous and pretentious to a very high up black ops unit. And that if I was a judge, judges aren't, especially...
Aren't they supposed to be impartial? Aren't they just supposed to take the evidence and...
You would think so. And, but I think he's definitely in favor. I think he used to be a DA or at least a police officer. So they do it on the fact that he's trying to protect the life of a lost member of the police force. But I just feel like the pretentiousness and the bravado. Now, if you're a judge in a court, which is really just an elevated lawyer that's been elected to the bench, that if I really made somebody mad at this level, I would be a little more careful. Like, if somebody has the power to clear your courtroom and move all your stuff, maybe you shouldn't be the one that's annoyed. Maybe you should be the one that's thinking, I better not make these people too mad.
Something that I thought was weird was when, not the part, because he pulls Liz back into his chambers for a private conversation. And what I thought was strange about the whole thing as a whole was he, like, as Liz was telling him everything that was going on with the task force, she pretty much just lays it out, and who their secret informant is, Red. And what I thought was strange for the judge's part was how, like you said, how judgmental he was about it. It was almost like he had taken it on as a case and he was trying to figure it out for us. Like, he was almost acting like us, the audience.
Right.
Like how we would interrogate Liz on all of these, questions and stuff.
Right. Or like some rookie journalism major that's trying to make their first break and trying to find some government conspiracy, and he's just incredulous at every story. And finally, Liz has to just bust down on him. And she really slapped him down and said, look, yeah, I must be stupid because this guy came into my life out of nowhere, made plans for marriage and babies, and the number 4 guy or 6 on the FBI's most wanted list, suddenly asks for me. And then she said, I must really suck.
Yeah, she really just did lay it out. And the judge, when he left, she was just like, he kind of walked out for a little while, and she's like, to take a break. And she's like, I don't want to take a break. She's like, I want to figure this stuff out. Maybe you can help me figure this out.
Well, but I think the mistake that she made was, I just want to go home. And that's like something a petulant child says. They've gone too far. They know they've gone too far, and, they're sorry, but that's not where that came from. She just gave him a slap down, and he realized it and responded by, well, yes, I think we're getting a little off topic. Because you're being a jerk.
Yeah, because he doesn't believe that any of the things that had happened. They showed, it was kind of like a cross between a recap episode and I don't know. It was like, they've done recap episodes before, but it was a little bit different because we're still waiting for some answers. And so I was hoping that while she was in there trying to figure stuff out and recapping all the things that she'd been through, that she would click with something. Like maybe something else would come to surface about, something that she remembered about Tom or something about Red or their connection. Like I thought maybe they would try and make her make a connection, but it didn't. And maybe that's going to happen in the second part because it looks like the next episode is going to be a continuation of this one. So maybe we'll get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, I felt like you said, this was like a a flashback episode where they had all these little montages. She would tell a story and we'd get an actual flashback about what happened. And then sometimes what she said is like not quite true. Yeah, I don't know what happened. And then they flash back to, the guy getting shot and the harbor master, or her version of the story, or even telling the story and it kind of happening fresh in her mind. But it's almost like a fill-in where they've got all this footage. They've got some space to fill, and we get some backstory. But on the other hand, they're really developing this at the same time as they're developing this as the same time that they're figuring out how to get Tom. And
right, because because Liz is in trouble and Tom was the one that caused it. So Red is now on a hunt for Tom Keene to get him back.
So right now they're on the hunt for Liz, and the rest of the show is hunting for Tom. So Red gets the deputy minister of Malaysia, who's from the ambassador's office in America. And because he knows that he is one of the major's little projects. So what the major did was find these young people that had promise, that had little petty thief crimes, but were super intelligent. And he sets them up with education and training, and they become these like master like criminals and
they become like chameleons. They can become anything. They become the Pretender is basically what they become. Like the Pretender, that show. I love that show. Where they can just, pretty much fit into any role and do any, like they speak all these languages. They can, become anybody.
Right. And here's the funny part is that Red gets the task force to kidnap the Malaysian minister because he feels like he can't do it, and so they pretty much have to, so that he can get Tom to clear to clear Liz. But it's some real murky ground because that's not even on the Black Ops list. If this gets back to the State Department, Cooper's hosed. for lack of a better term, but
Cooper's already put his life on. I mean, because he was brought into the judge's chambers and asked point blank about Liz and her, whether or not she was on an operation when the guy was killed, and he pretty much covered for her.
And he said that he wouldn't, and in the end, he actually went ahead and did it anyway. So yeah, that's I think he's playing the I'm dying card, which would be fine if he was actually dying. But now that we know he's in that study and maybe not dying, what's going to happen when Cooper lives?
Yeah, well, except, he had to pretty much say that because he needed to shut it down. He needed to shut the judge down. Otherwise, he was just going to keep hunting and hunting and hunting. And he needed to put an end to it at that moment.
But the way they're playing this, this judge isn't going to end anytime soon. He's going to go through this. He's going to find any kind of inconsistency. And when all is said and done and they'll feel like it was satisfied, the 2 or 3 or 4 little lies, somehow they're going to come back on them in some dramatic fashion, maybe in season 3 or later in this year. I do believe that they'll think that they finally shut this guy down, unless it gets to a point where Red gets tired of the judge and the judge just disappears.
Unless the judge is working for someone else and is just getting information.
Right, in which case Red will get rid of the judge. I mean, Red assassinated the head of she the head of the State Department?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like Cooper's
in her own home.
In her own home. So what chances is appellate, if he's even an appellate judge, is he going to have? What chance is this guy going to have?
None.
If Red wants to squash him like a bug, this guy's a goner, along with the detective. At some point, as aggressive as they're going to be, it's gotten almost to the point where in the back of your head, it's like, well, they're going to have to deal with these people somehow, or it all ends. So I think they've almost, I hate to say that, I mean, from my perspective, it's almost gone too far because on the believability factor that, they could just send Liz together and bring down the whole task force. Except, we know that they're already planning for season 3.
Thank goodness. Because I love this show way too much.
I know. And it's funny, speaking of the show that took Monday night is the State of Affairs with Heigl.
Katherine
Heigl is not doing very well at all in that same slot.
I kind of heard a rumor that the Blacklist might go back to Monday nights. I heard that about a month ago, and I haven't heard anything more about it since, but
yeah, maybe
could just be a rumor.
It could be. They were getting great Monday night ratings because Monday nights they didn't have any competition. And you had a whole night that's just dominated by this show, whereas Thursday night, they're right up against, was it CSI?
Shondaland.
Yeah.
It's Shondaland time, which is fabulous because my favorite actress, Mireille Enos, just got picked up for the new Shonda series, The Catch, and I'm plugging it because it's amazing.
So, yeah, if they go back to Monday, if they don't pick up State of Affairs, which I really enjoyed the show, I have to say, because I was already kind of used to watching TV at that time, I really gave it a shot. And I really wasn't kind of tired of Katherine Heigl after the whole Grey's Anatomy because I never really watched that show a whole bunch.
I did.
So do you feel like there's baggage because of that? She was on for so long?
No.
And people kind of tired of her character and since
No, I don't think that's why. I think people were upset by the way that she left the show, and at least that's how it was for me. And so it's really hard for me to give her, the chance back to come back. I don't know if everyone else feels that way, but I just feel like she had such a good role on the show and she just left in such a bad way. But I mean, I watched State of Affairs and I thought it was, decent. I still think that
I did too, but Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 26%, and I thought, that is pretty low. But I think it is backlash. I don't think it's the show.
No, it's backlash. Yeah. I know it is.
So
but I thought that David Duchovny's ex, Taya Leone, her show, I thought was a better show than Katherine Heigl's State of Affairs. And
yeah, well, maybe they'll put something else into that, or like the topic of the conversation being the Blacklist. That if they don't get over that they're going to put that back into the Monday slot. I really haven't looked and seen the ratings, but the Blacklist is hot. It's a hot commodity.
The ratings for the last couple of weeks for the Blacklist have been very decent. I mean, you're not going to be able to have the ratings for right after the Super Bowl. You can't sustain that the whole season. Everybody's like, "Oh, the Blacklist ratings have gone down." Well, I think the Blacklist is doing a pretty decent job for the time slot, and I mean, they could stick it out if they wanted to. Yeah, they've got a following of they have so many people following the show from all around the world.
But if they go back to Monday nights, are they going to do better because they don't have that competition?
No, maybe. I don't know.
So, let's see.
We could compare the ratings from Monday nights to what it is on Thursday nights and see if there's much of a difference. If there isn't, it shows that, if it shows its level from Monday to Thursday, it shows that they're doing a pretty decent job considering who they're up against.
Yeah. So let's get back to the show. We've got this whole episode where they're chasing the dog's tail with Liz, and she's giving him this whole story. But the defining moments of that whole storyline, I think, come in the last few minutes where the prosecutor finds the bullet. And he comes up with an idea. He's talking to the witness who's recanted, and he's, I've already, dodged a bullet or taken a bullet. And hey, the guy was shot. Let's go look for the bullet. And he finds the bullet with Ames' blood on it, and appears to be from Liz's weapon. Now, Liz didn't lose her weapon. Liz still has her weapon. She didn't ditch it in the ocean and say, somebody got it and it was used in a crime.
Yeah, they'll be able to. Her weapon was used, they're totally going to be able to use that against her.
Right. I mean, literally a smoking gun.
Yeah, seriously. Except that she wasn't holding it. Tom was.
Right. So that's why I think this episode, they're going to get all the way to the end. They're going to threaten to ruin Liz's life and the task force, blah, blah, blah. At the last minute, Red will get Tom back in. Tom Keene will clear her name, and then there's going to be some sort of reckoning because, well, I don't know because actually Tom didn't really, as far as Red knows, he doesn't know that Tom has been calling her, but
no, he doesn't.
He for the most part stayed out of her life, and Red's bringing him in. So it'll be really interesting to find out what's going to happen between Red and Tom Keene.
Well, and I think the biggest thing that happened in this episode was when Dembe and Red were talking. And I say that because Dembe doesn't usually say a lot of words, but, he really just nailed Red to the wall when he told her that he needed to tell her about Tom, about the whole story. And
right.
and Red was just backpedaling. He was just like, I can't do it. I mean, he is mortified to tell Liz that he hired Tom. Right. He hired Tom before Berlin came into the picture.
Right. So he
double-crossed him.
Right. He put Tom into Berlin's way, for whatever reason, and then so that Red had this in with Berlin at the same time that Liz is going. When Liz finds out about this, she's going to be. There's going to be a conniption. I mean, her eyes are going to bulge out. Her head's going to explode.
Yeah, she may go totally ballistic on somebody. I'm guessing there's going to be hitting involved, and I think that we always tease about Liz always giving Red the first 15 minutes. She may actually leave the scene. She may actually leave the country for a while.
But what does that set up for the show? It's almost like an empty threat. It's like every time they kind of write this in, you really can't. Oh yeah, well I've got the next person on the list, and then they have to start talking again, and then she 3 episodes later. I care for you, and I totally saved you because I don't know.
Well, I'm wondering what's going to happen with Tom because really we know how Red and Liz are going to react, but I really want to see how Tom being in this, in the picture with this, how that's going to change the dynamic because I really believe that. And I really want all 3 of them to be in the same room when this happens because right. I just really think it'll be totally spectacular.
Well, what if
fireworks season?
What if Red kind of gets his redemption if Tom gets back in the picture? Because obviously, through the random phone calls, he's warned Liz. He's given her advice. He's just they could
totally use this. They could totally use him as her informant. Like instead of going to Red, where she goes to Tom.
Or, Tom becomes part of the task force because
yeah, that's what I mean.
At first they thought, oh, maybe he's a spy. Yeah, actually he was a spy, and he works at such a high level that he could be on par with Red, and he's the one that's working with Red. And if Liz kind of gets back with Tom and they fall in love and maybe somehow
I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't think that could? I think it could happen. I
don't think so. I just don't see it. I mean, I can see it from his perspective. He's in love with her, but she's like, you can't. It's damaged. She's not going to go back to that. Well, I guess I can't say that. They could totally go there. I mean, they could.
Because her character is so damaged. Her character is always going back to Red, always going back to Tom. For whatever reason, this is like some Carl Jung crap because
like masochistic.
It really is.
Session.
It's she knows what kind of guy Red is. She knows the constant that he has to lie. He can't lay out all the stuff. He really can't be truthful with the kind of career he's had. And for whatever reason, he needs the fulcrum. And she's just as bad because she's hiding the fulcrum from him. Her justification is she needs to find out what it is first. Yet she's still holding on to it and hasn't been able to do anything with it.
I still think she needs to plug that into her music box that they made.
Oh, I think you're right.
They need to bring that fulcrum back into play, and I hope they do it I hope they do it before this season ends. Maybe that'll be the season cliffhanger. Her plugging that thing into plugging the fulcrum into her music box, or thinking about the music box, or walking down the stairs and we just see it like, the Holy Grail, or we see it like the Ark of the Covenant.
Or it's like Alexander
Indiana Jones.
Or like the very first telephone where Alexander Graham Bell is talking to his assistant. Come into the other room, and you hear these old grainy voices. And no, I think you're right. I think the cliffhanger is somehow she plugs that into the music player, and all of a sudden, all this information starts coming out. But
I can't wait to hear the first things that come out of that when she plays it. I hope it's Red's voice in the very first few seconds.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I mean, they've really pumped this up. The last couple episodes have been kind of more consistent, more exciting. Like I say, this one had a little bit of filler and kind of got the storyline. I think we're going to get the real conclusion to the trial. We're going to get Tom Keene back in the picture. And, there's a lot of trending for at Tom Keene. And just all these things are going to kind of, I guess, accumulate until you get to that finale. And I think it has to be something with the fulcrum.
Absolutely. So Dembe, I'm glad that they had him in this episode, and I'm glad that he really was the one to tell Red, what was up, because Red doesn't listen to a lot of people, and he only cares about very few people. And Dembe is at the top of that list. And for Dembe to tell him, that he needed to do something when he hardly ever speaks at all, that's huge.
Yeah, this is the most he's said in all of 2 seasons. And when he tells you something, you really need to listen. Now, Red doesn't want to do it, but he's really considering it because Dembe finally spoke up and said, you have to tell her the truth and the whole truth. Yeah, and then maybe, and then and only then, will we not get, like every 2 episodes, when she finds out each little tiny detail in this painfully slow way, that she won't talk to him. And if you lay it all out, there's no secrets to slowly find out anymore.
The other thing that I'm really hoping for is that Samar is with Red when Tom tries to escape or something, and she has to do the chase down. Can that happen? Somebody make that happen.
I want the romance.
Other things I'm looking forward to. Wrestler needs more action because, in the first season we used to see Wrestler. He was always, throwing punches. He was always he was the guy that was always starting a fight or chasing somebody or getting blown up or something. And now that he's got this drug addiction, he's having all sorts of, he's not doing as much as he used to. So I'm hoping that they resolve that drug addiction thing soon so that he can get back to being a badass.
I think that'll be one of those interlude things where they kind of run out of something on the list and then they'll go, oh yeah, by the way, because there's no evidence of there being any performance issues right now with him, other than the occasional, I know what that's like, or some weird.
Because in the last episode before the last one,
right?
What episode was that? When Liz and him were talking out front, and Wrestler pretty much told her that she didn't get her act together, and if she didn't, everybody else has problems just like she does, and she needs to suck it up.
Right. So I think this was kind of a necessary kind of recap, doing something, but I think it's forwarding it to the next. The next episode is Tom Keene, where they get Tom back, and will probably have to testify for this judge, clean up some things, and then the next two in the queue are called the Longevity Initiative, which sounds pretty much like a straight blacklister, and then Vanessa Cruz. And
when the name is a lady's name, that this is going to be a fabulous episode, because all the ones that are named after women mean something to Red.
Right. And I think I'm seeing something that she's number 218?
Really? She's
Yeah.
that far down?
I don't know.
What does she do? Does it say?
Let's see. The task force tracks a provocative female blacklister, guest star Ana de la Reguera, a frame-up artist who targets the wealthy elite. Tom pleads for Liz's help, and Red pressures Liz for the fulcrum, claiming it's now a matter of life and death. So,
whose life and death? It's his
because he has
he
to.
needs it.
Yeah, Red has to come up with proof that he has it just to stay alive. And
That's right.
As much as Liz wants to play with this and the balance of world power is in her hands, actually the fulcrum, for better or for worse, is only useful to Red to stay alive, because he can't. That group is so powerful that they will I think they would implode. They would kill him if they felt the effects from it. So
why does Tom need Liz's help? That's a curious little statement.
Well, I think Tom will probably, after he testifies, they'll probably let him go. Hey, thanks for letting Liz go. It'll be begrudgingly. But he'll go back to work for the major, and
he's going to need her help in an undercover situation.
Yeah, I mean, if
the Veronica thing has something to do with him and not Red.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be a storyline, because Vanessa is a frame-up artist who targets the wealthy elite, which is probably going to be one of Tom's clients. And so that is going to be a total Liz and Tom story. And then the fulcrum will be Liz and Red. And she won't want to play, except for the fact that it'll keep Red alive, which we've known all along. They've tried to advance this fulcrum story for more than I think what it is. But it's a list that keeps Red alive. I think she's hoping that she could, crack the code and maybe do something with it. Now, which is silly, because if you figure that they could keep a guy like Red at bay, what is the chances that, Elizabeth would be able to do anything? Because when that thing made public, all hell's going to break loose. So I think the fulcrum's got to go back to Red, and I think they'll drag it out for a couple. But like what you were saying, I do think that in the end that the music player does some part. I can't get it all out in one sentence. That the music player and the fulcrum are going to get together, and we're gonna hear some great information, and maybe even something during the fire.
Yeah, I hope. I'm looking forward to finding out some of these answers, and I know that the fulcrum pretty much has everything on it that we want.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, I think we've got the show. We've got a couple of things coming up. So is there anything else you can think of?
No, I'm looking forward to this week's episode.
All right. So this next week is Tom Keene. And so let's wrap it up. This was the Blacklist Podcast, brought to you by the Southgate Media Group. You can find us at www.southgatemediagroup.com. All our other shows and podcasts and blogs. And there are sponsors. There are ways to donate to the site if you enjoy what we're doing. And we keep these shows ad-free. And we'd like to keep it that way. And my Twitter is at J1Grosky, and yours is
Melissa Maxey.
And the show, the show Twitter and Instagram.
The show Twitter is Blacklist Pod, and the Instagram is the Blacklist Pod, and my Twitter is at MS Maxey.
Great. All right. Well, that wraps it up. Until next time.
See you then.